I just got out of bed having sex with 2 hot women. I'm here with my dog, professional wrestler, SeXXXy Eddy. I got bedhead right now, but it doesn't matter because you're listening to Crash and Bleed.
No commercial value, no commercial value. Something's going on, no commercial value.
So when were you exposed to Deathmatch?
Man, first time I had seen it was actually at the same time, I think. One of my buddies, he was telling me about ECW. He was always wearing his cap, ECW cap, and I didn't know what was that. There was only 2 dominant companies that were available when I was a kid. So like it was WWE and WWF at the time and WCW. That's all we knew. That's all there was. So when I got to see ECW for the first time, I think it was like the pay-per-view, like Barely Legal or something. I was like, that opened up my eyes. Then when I saw one of my friends, he was a tape trader, and he was trading with tapes from Japan. And that's the first time I got to see FMW. And that, again, that just blew my mind. Like, there was some guys that were just guys that would just cut and bleed. But then there was also the wrestlers that could wrestle good matches. But I saw it was a couple. It was like a greatest hits of FMW and Wing in Japan. And there was like a desert death match with cactus in each corner. There was an aquarium in the middle with like scorpions and stuff. There was another one, a match where I saw with piranhas in there, and I was just like, holy shit, you can do this? Like, this is crazy. And that really opened up my eyes, and it really made me interested in that because I like the idea of the underdog and breaking out of the norm. Everything was like so PG. Even there was the Attitude Era in WWE, but everything was made for the mainstream television. So to get these like cassettes, this is back before DVDs and before Blu-ray. So because I'm an old wrestler, I've been around for a long time, and we were learning about the internet, so it wasn't as common to find stuff. You had to actually order them, and you get your cassette from Japan, and my buddy'd be like, I got a new one. I'll come on over. So it was like that was my first taste of it. And it was, I like this. I like this very much. I think you can cater it to a different audience. And I like the bar crowds, the over 18 crowds. You can ante up the violence. You can ante up the sex. Everything goes a level up. And even the first time, even just hearing guys swearing on the mic on ECW, and I was like, whoa, like, so it was fun stuff like that, just an eye opener, and a game changer for me.
Yeah, so that was maybe in the mid 90s for you, wouldn't it have been like 96, 97?
Man, I'm bad with dates, but that makes sense.
And do you remember what exactly it was about Deathmatch that drew you in? Like, was it the blood or the barbed wire or the glass? Were they even using glass back then?
The first taste of glass actually I saw was a match from CZW, which when discovering it, and I was like, oh man, they do it in the States. They do it like in North America. So that's the first time I've seen it. It was a 4-way. I'm going to just throw some names, but I think it was Justice Payne, Nick Gage, maybe Wife Beater, Zandig, Lobo. There was like 4 guys, and it was but they also didn't just bash each other. They also had some great moves like Matt Burns. Why am I getting a blank? Sick Nick Mondo. Nick Mondo. And seeing him too, and I'm like, wow, no, you can incorporate wrestling. Even and ECW, Rob Van Dam was one of my favorites. Where, hey, if you don't just bash the guy with a chair, again, there's some wrestlers that'll just do that, but like he was incorporating in the moves, and I thought that was insane. When you got a ladder and you're not just climbing it to get the belt, but you can do moves in between the rungs of the ladder, different ways. When I've seen the first time they're building contraptions. And being a part of that in some ladder matches where, okay, these ladders in between this one, and it's just like, wow, holy shit. The stuff that you can design. Another good 2 guys that I knew that were very good at designing and drawing. It was one of the guys from Canada. He was Evil Ninja. there's a hardcore ninjas, and so one of the ninjas, I remember he had a big book of like all matches that he wanted to do, but like crazy, and he'd draw them and he'd do storylines and stuff, and I was like, man, this guy's really invested. And Danny Havoc was good at making plans, like building for Cage of Death. Like, let's say he's in a match and he was like, well, I'm in this match. This is how I want to design parts of the cage and stuff like that. And I'm like, man, I never thought of that. I was always like, they give you the weapons, you go out and use them. You know, fans bring the weapons, let's check them out. This one's too dirty or rusty, throw that in the garbage. Oh, but this one will be great for this spot, or I want to use something with this weapon and my penis, and it's gonna be great, you know. So to see him actually design things like that for the cage, I was like, that was pretty cool. So some guys are more creative, and it's just like thinking up new ideas, new things to do, new ways to try and hurt ourselves. And yeah. And I feel sometimes when I see some certain spots that I'm like, actually the first time I saw Dry Ice, Marcus Crane versus Reed Bentley. I was at GCW wrestling there, Game Changer Wrestling, and they did a barefoot spot with Dry Ice, and I was just like, this is insane. But this is the evolution of wrestling. It's there's always something more. You still go back to your roots, and you still, you got to pay homage, and some of the things in TLC matches are classics. You're always going to see them, but when they're adding new weapons or new ways, new things to do and stuff, it's cool to see guys that are passionate about wrestling as much as I used to be. When you get older, you're kind of like, sometimes they're taking it more easy and stuff, but I'm like, man, I would never do like a couple weapons that I would never do is when they cut the cans in half and they glue them on a board or on a door. Razor wire, that's a big no-no. Or rat traps too. I had someone rat traps, and I'm like, man, if I can lose something, like, mice traps are fine, that's great, but rat traps, they snap a lot harder. So I'm like, so you got to know some of your limits too. Yeah, and even not too long ago, I remember at XPW as a Masada playing with fire, but like it kind of came back on him and stuff. So it just it pains me when I see some of my brothers and sisters getting hurt for real, but it's for the love of deathmatch wrestling. As much as we say we're trained professionals, don't do this at home. Well, we're semi-trained or whatever, but I mean, some of these things you can't control. Glass is unpredictable. That's why anything in a death match is usually unpredictable. Hardcore matches, it's a little easier to dictate the pace and see how the weapons are going to go. But, sometimes someone just throws a chair, it bounces off, hits someone in the face. That's not supposed to happen. Or even like you said, glass, fire, things like that are unpredictable, how it's going to break. And I'm a good example of that with my video that went viral and that made me break out of wrestling. It was my first time in the States at Combat Zone Wrestling. Exactly. TLD 3, Tournament of Death 3. And I went with it. That is as improv as you can get. So, yeah. Sorry, I go all over the place. I go all over the place. I might answer 3 questions without even knowing, that I did. So, yeah.
I have noticed that because I've watched like every interview that I could find with you, like in the past week, like in preparation for this. So I didn't want to talk too much about stuff you've already talked about in other interviews, but we do have to talk about Tournament of Death 3, obviously, because I want to know like what happened in the back and everything. But firstly, though, I wanted to know like what your take on the origin of death matches, like where did this stuff originate?
Well, I feel that it started in Japan. I think everything starts in Japan. I know that there was more of a demand for it here, I feel, as mixed martial arts was coming in. Because I know that at one point a lot of people were like saying, oh, you do the wrestling, the fake stuff. Well, why don't you watch mixed UFC and stuff and you'll see the real stuff. And so some people probably said, oh, the fake stuff, well, let's if there's a little bit of blood, let's amp it up. And I would think that might have been one of the reasons where people would be like, you can watch what the kids watch, or you can watch what the adults watch, the real fighting. So I think by throwing that in there too, and I don't know what the percentage would be of fans that like deathmatch wrestling. If it's 1% of wrestling fans, I don't know. But there is a niche, and I feel a need for it.
Do you have a favorite weapon?
I'd have to choose the garbage can, just because that was one of my first. And people like my first thing that I was doing was I would put a garbage can on my head, and I did this actually. I want to say 18 years ago, maybe the first time I did it. So I put it on top of my head. I'd be on the top rope, put it on my head, and then do a backflip. So you're flipping. You don't see where you're going. You don't have your hands to give you that extra momentum. It's probably one of the dumber things I did too. But
It's one of the funniest moves.
I did. I think that would be my my weapon of choice, because people will associate that with some people called it the stupid salt. I like to call it the garbage salt, but yeah. And the first time I did that in the States was Cage of Death. Off the cage, I had a couple people catching me there, and then I did it again. I got to do a main event in Japan, in Osaka, and I did it there too. I said, you know what? Let them see it. If this is the first time it's happening, then let me be the one to do that. So yeah.
Did you invent that? Like, do we know that's a fact?
You know what? I don't know. I've never seen anyone else do it. I've seen stuff afterwards, but I want to say that I'm the first one, I think, to document it on DVDs and stuff. I mean, again, you got so many kids wrestling backyards before they start, and or if they ever get training, some kids just stay backyard in the backyard, and that's it. They don't want to keep going. But I'm gonna have to take credit for that. I think, unless somebody proves me wrong, then I will graciously apologize. So that's yeah.
So in a standard hardcore match, what elements do you think you have to bring in for it to then become a death match?
When you cross that line?
Yeah, the difference is I want to say it's guaranteed blood. There's always a chance that you can get split open, busted open using tables, ladders, and chairs. But a death match, like it has glass or thumbtacks, there's going to be guaranteed blood. Hardcore matches, sometimes you get banged up, bruised up, and beat up, but like to have you need to get glued shut with death matches or stitches. It's a guarantee.
Yeah. So, did you see Sick Nick Mondo's documentary, The Trade?
Yeah. Yes, I did.
Yeah. What did you make of that? Like the way he's talking about your mental health, and I always thought, what is actually wrong with us? Why do we want to see so much blood? Why do we want to see the gore, but we don't want to necessarily see people get hurt for real, But we want to see loads of blood.
I also feel that deathmatch fans are some of the kindest and most giving people ever. They've taken care of me. They've drove me to the hospital. They've got me drunk. I feel that they really want to show and give back. Like they've been the ones that have taken the most care of me. But yeah, that's a thing where I think it's therapeutic. At one point, it was therapeutic for me, where I was invincible, and I was like, maybe sometimes I was breaking some girls' hearts, and so the physical damage that I would take kind of helped, if you will.
So guilt, that's exactly what Nick Mondo was saying. It's something to do with guilt.
Yeah. Sometimes you have personal demons or things that happening in your life, and to get that out and to bleed for the people and to show them, it's a little bit like sometimes like a martyr. You're almost giving. If you can take people's pains away or take away their 9 to 5 if they have a shitty life or whatever, if we're taking that away by cutting ourselves up, then that's our way of kind of helping people. It's therapeutic for us sometimes, where I don't know, just if I wasn't doing wrestling, I don't know what I would have done, but it would have probably been, I would have been getting into trouble. If it helps people, and if I can say it's therapeutic, nobody wants to see, like you said, nobody wants to see people get hurt, but they want to see how far the human body can go.
Well, I do find it hard to watch regular wrestling now. Like, just to let you know where I'm coming from, I watched the WWF from like late 1996 to early 2002.
Yeah.
And then I moved into CZW from 2002 to 2007 because that's when Zandig left. And I didn't know who any of the wrestlers were anymore. Of course, I watched a little bit of ECW and tiny bit of WCW in them times. And then I started watching random deathmatch companies here and there, like FMW and stuff. I only recently found out what AEW was, like a few weeks ago. I only just found out what GCW was a few days ago. And that's only because like I found a video of you doing like a deathmatch in GCW, but... to get back onto Sick Nick Mondo, he did that big devastating spot off the roof with Zandig. That's ended up becoming like the most iconic deathmatch footage from Tournament of Death 2.
Yeah.
And as Matt and Zandig have said, the staff had moved those tables closer to the building to sort of help protect them, but they ended up kind of making things worse. So Zandig has Mondo up, ready to throw him off a building, like nearly 40 feet or whatever it was, and he says to him right before they go, the tables are too close. So within seconds they go through with it anyway. But if you were in Nick Mondo's boots and Zandig has you up ready to throw you off a building like that, what do you do when he says that the tables are too close?
You're kind of in the move, you know that's the last spot, like you'd probably just let's just go for it and just hope for the best. You know, like there's no way for you to like I don't know, fight out of that move, go back down, fix the tables, and then like there's no way. I would have probably like let's just here we go.
So are you like well now? Are you in good health, like mentally and physically?
None of us are good mentally if we're wrestling. That's we're all a little bit crazy. And when I do hang out with my friends, wrestlers, I always go above and beyond what I should be doing. Like, so I partied on Thursday with my buddy Green Phantom, and I woke up on his couch as people were coming in the morning, and I had to go to work. So it was like a little crazy. And then I went to work. Actually, again, I did some drugs, drank more beer when I woke up, puked, took a crap, and then I was good to go. I punched into work. I did some work. I went back to Green Phantom's house and drank more of his beer. And even though everyone had left, and I was just like, yeah, I kept going. And then my wife took a nice video of me snoring in the dog bed, face down, when I got back from work. And I'm drinking all day. I don't know why. I don't know what I had to prove. I'm 45-year-old man. I should not be partying like this. But when I'm with other wrestlers, we turn into children, and it's like a daycare. And once I get alcohol in my hand, it's hard for me to stop. You don't know what you can do sometimes. I've had a lot of lost brothers in wrestling. Then I was with a CZW. We were 4 guys in a tag team, and there's only me and Spider Nate Webb that are still alive. Chris Cash, I think, was a motorcycle accident. JC Bailey, I think it was suicide. It's like you're hearing stories of overdoses and everything. Maybe because I'm in wrestling that I hear more of it in wrestling, but I'm sure it happens in every sport and stuff like that. But yeah, you take away someone's passion, it could take away their will to live. So that's what I felt. We were able to talk to a lot of people and just to help them out. And I always said, I only realized it later, but I'm like, hey, if you just need to phone me up and I'll tell you some stupidity, or I'll give you a good sex story and make you laugh. And then you'll be like, oh, okay, Eddie made me feel better. So if I can do that, that was my goal. Like, our goals are to perform and to make people, cheer or boo. Again, I have moments where I don't want to do wrestling anymore. I'm just like, I hate everything. But I think everyone does, especially when there's an injury that happens. That usually will, people are like, do I keep going? Is it worth it and stuff? But then you remember special moments that you're like, and I've changed a lot of my wrestling style. I'll still do death matches here and there, but I was able to kind of turn into comedy. And I was like, you know what? There's some things that make me laugh. I watch those movies with poop cocks and dick and they say titties and like I laugh every time when there's like a diarrhea scene. So I'm like, okay, you know what? Let me put some of this stupidity in wrestling because it still makes me laugh. And I'm like, am I just not a grown up yet? Am I just getting older, but my brain is staying young or what? But that's the kind of movies that I was brought up with. So if I can do funny stuff where like even doing my dick toss that I want to say, I take credit for inventing it. Other people just went viral on the internet. But again, that's something that I take to the bank. I invented the dick toss. And then it even evolved into the magnetic penis, where it's almost like taken from Magneto in the X-Men, where it's using your brain power, and instead of sucking all like the metal, like he's a magnet, I'd have guys' and girls, their hands are magnetically, they're getting pulled. They're getting pulled to my penis until I just fucking yell power the penis and it makes like a sonic boom explosion and everybody goes down. You know, only in professional wrestling can we do something that silly, but people will laugh. And I could do that stuff and put it in a death match and then bleed and people be like, man, we got scared. He made us laugh. He made us have a lot of ooh moments, but like if I can do a little bit of everything in a match, that's my kind of match. It's just to try and please everyone. We're all people pleasers, and we're willing to do the craziest things to get a reaction from people.
There was a moment in CZW where Sanjay Dutt did a moonsault double stomp right onto the goods. How are you doing that safely? Are you wearing a cup? Because I don't think you do you?
No, I don't believe in cups because then it will just add an extra layer. I was like, and just like my death matches, I'm like, I stay true to them. I'm not going to wear jeans for them. Unless you wear jeans in your regular matches, you know, stay true to the gimmick. That's what I always said. And again, it wasn't planned that he was going to land there. But I think he hurt his foot from that after that move. He had problems. He was limping. He couldn't walk for about a week. And that's when I realized the power of the penis. I have something really magical between my legs. Yeah, that should have fucking squashed everything, but it didn't. It just made them tougher. I have a pretty tough sack. Let me tell you. I'm sure if his feet went 1 inch a different way or whatever, yeah. But I'm still here to talk about it and laugh about it, so that's what matters.
So, on the subject of then safety, like, how are you not inhaling bits of glass or that poisonous gas from the light tubes? Like, how are you keeping yourself safe in situations like that?
I don't know, like, all that stuff. I don't know when I'm going to die. And, you know, you might die from something, but you won't know exactly what. Like, who knows? It could have been asbestos at my job that I breathed that in, but then people might say, oh, it's the glass from the light tubes. Who knows? Like, yeah, like I said, we take a lot of stupid risks. It's just how big the mistakes that we do that could cost us our health and stuff. You try and hold your breath every time light tubes are in the air and stuff, but yeah, and we still got chips of them in us. Like I know I got chips in my elbow. Like I'll feel something sometimes, and I'll be like, I feel something, and always my wife's like, oh, is it glass again? Because she's always like saying, like, you know, it's not glass, it's just a pimple or something. And then I'm like scratching, I'm like, see, I told you I did have glass, even though the last match I did was 10 months ago, let's say. So she'd still be like, you know, oh, it's probably glass. But sometimes there's these little, they're so fine. It's like just little piece, but it just bugs you, and your body tries to reject it and push it out. Everyone's body deals with it differently. Some people make a big bubble or scar tissue around it. It just stays inside you. So I know I got glass in me. Again, yeah. What are you going to do? What are you going to do?
You started in the backyard, right? You had like a little backyard wrestling thing going on, like we all did. Like we all did that.
We all did. And there's nothing to be ashamed of because that's how we start, you know. Let's say you're at camp or whatever, and everyone takes the mattresses off the beds, and it's like, okay, we'll do some wrestling when the counselors are not here or whatever, and you know, things like that. So we all start like that, and then we're like, you know, we build in a little entrance, we have music playing, and a lot of times we copy our heroes that we watched. That was the fun thing. My first ever wrestling match that I had no training for. I was working for a radio station at my college, and me and the other DJ, we just both liked wrestling a lot. We wrote a giant script of like 4 pages long of every finishing move there was in wrestling, and we included it in our match, which we forgot a lot of the match that we had planned, but we had weapons. So we were 2 radio DJs, and we were able to like use the media of the radio, and the newspaper was right next door, so they'd write articles like, these guys caught fighting again, like, when was it going to stop? And then that's why we had a lead up to the student barbecue where there was bands already playing, hot dogs and hamburgers. So already we knew there was going to be a ton of people, and once they heard the bell ring and ding ding ding, and people just start foaming at the mouth basically, and they were like, oh, we had like 400 people just circled around. It looked like a pit fight. Like it was just on some mats. We didn't have access to ring or nothing. We didn't know what we're doing, so we're just doing everyone's finishing moves and stuff. And we every week, garbage day, we'd pick up stuff. Oh, here's a toaster. Dude, I picked up an ironing board. Okay, awesome. Okay, I thought some brooms. So we'd pick up so much stuff. So to cover up the fact that we weren't wrestlers, we're just doing moves. We used some weapons, and even then, that's the first time. It was April 1998, where I put the garbage can on my head. I was standing, I think, on a table, and I did a backflip, landed crooked. It looked like I broke my ankle in the ladder and everything. Like I just, but I was fine. And the rush that I got too of everyone cheering and like. Man, that was great. Like we had cameramen too, and then like my brother was filming, someone else was filming. When we made that copy of some cassettes, so I gave everyone that worked on the show, and it spread around, it got around, and that's how I got for my first knowing that, hey, there's like independent wrestling. When you're not in the world, and maybe before internet, there wasn't as much. How do you find out about things? So because that tape circulated, a few months later, I get a call, and they're like, hey. You got a lot of crowd. You want to do another wrestling show next year, and like with a ring and with real wrestlers that were doing shows. So we made sure just to finish the show. We did the finale because most of the people were there to see me because they had saw the cassette from the year before. So they did it in the gymnasium and everything. And I remember the promoter. I'm in the middle of the ring bleeding. The ref didn't know about the blood. Only the other guy knew. And he gets in the ring and he yells like, I'm selling. I'm working it. I just went through thumbtacks. He didn't want any weapons. We didn't tell them because we didn't know we had to tell them, 1. And 2, maybe if we tell them, they'll say absolutely not.
Yeah.
So I know what I want to give the crowd. I wanted to make the shock and awe from the people. I wanted them to be like, oh my God, is he okay? It's even crazier than last year. So once I'm selling on the ground, we did the finish, thumbtacks, a flip with the garbage can, I'm bleeding everywhere. The promoter jumps in the ring. He's like, and you could hear a little bit like, you get the fuck out of my ring. He's standing over me and I'm selling. So I'm just keep selling all the way out. And I got to do everything I wanted to do. And impress the people, but so much that they were like, hey, even though this guy bled, he did some shit, they ended up inviting me to the school, and that's how I got my foot in the door. But they already like, hey, look, he's already got a following, and he's not even like trained or nothing. So you got to start somewhere, and everyone's story is different. Sometimes there's a local school, you find out about it, but until you actually go maybe to independent shows and you see them, I always tell people go to as many different shows as you can. Yeah. I don't even know what I was talking about just before, but we got into like training and wrestling schools and stuff. But anyways, we're there to make memories for the people. We're not there to who wins, who loses. It's to make memories. So when people years later tell me, hey, I remember when you did this and this crazy thing off the top rope, and then you dropped your penis on the guy's hand and you eliminated him out of the Rumble. Like, again, as silly as some of these things sound, we're making them laugh. We're giving them emotions, and that's what I'm here to do. That's what I love to do.
Yeah. Do you know if they train you for deathmatch like these days? Because there wasn't any of that back then, was there?
That's a good question, actually. I've asked some advice from guys, and I still, you're like, we want to use this weapon, but it's kind of hard to not get really sliced up with it. What should we do? Like you could always ask guys that are doing it, but if there's a specific deathmatch school, man, I'm not sure. But the biggest time you get hurt is when you hesitate. You're on the top of something and you're not sure if you can make this jump. You're not sure if this and that. It's like you got to go. You got to go for it.
New Jack and Vic Grimes, like off the entranceway through the table. Do you remember that when he crushed his skull?
Yeah, it's when you're up there, it's kind of hard to not go up there. I mean, the crowd, that would get such an enormous boo if they then climb down the whole thing, But again, that would be a great heel move too, to just
because I recently went back and relived all the CZW shows that I was watching nearly 20 years ago now, and there's quite a lot of setting up a contraption and then just middle fingers to the crowd. Now it's not going to happen.
That's when you get that moment is awesome. That's just for the heels to be, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you, and then at the end they get their just deserved, what they deserve and stuff. And that's the story. Each match has a little story, and it's funny the first time explaining this to girlfriends and stuff, where I'm like, no, it's deeper than just two guys clubbing each other in their underwear. No, there's reasons, and then it's a male soap opera, and that's how I'll always compare it. There's mini stories, and then they're like, we got to give the reason for the fans to come back to the next show. You got to leave them always, oh man, how's this guy going to get his revenge? Oh, is this guy really done? Is he retiring? Is this, so there's always little things like that. Promoter's job is to get the asses in the seats. The wrestler's job is to get them coming back to the next shows.
Yeah, well, that's a thought as well. It's who's booking deathmatch wrestlers to come and almost kill themselves for an audience of only 20 or so people sometimes? I know the DVD sales probably did quite well back then, but for anyone that lives in the UK or, outside of America or Canada, it's some of the shipping on those DVDs is $40 or more, import charges. I mean, it's hard to get that stuff now. I've got the most important ones, like the Tournament of Death and the Cage of Death DVDs, but I mean, what have the sales been like?
And that's how I got to Japan. It was the distribution of some of the DVDs, which now I'm sure it's taken a big hit. I personally like to have the hard copies because I have that in my collection, and some of them maybe don't even work anymore, but I still, to have the box and everything, it's just I don't know, I realized man, I did a lot of stupid things. Yeah, exactly. Oh, that's the box set. Cool. Yeah, I like to have the copy, but now I'm sure that now everything's more available on YouTube and stuff like that, or on certain channels. If they have the CZW channel, the IWA Mid South, the Deep South channels and stuff, that you can find everything there. Or now they have IWTV, and they have Fight TV and things like that, where they'll show independent wrestling and stuff. So yeah, there's other options, I guess, but I'm sure the DVD sales have taken a hit big time. But I still have people that will mail me stuff, and I'll sign it for them, and I'm mail it back, and I'm that's so cool. They're thank you so much. I'm no, thank you for supporting independent wrestling. The WWE fans are dumbasses. They're stupid. They thought they're really narrow-sighted. But the true fans, the wrestling fans, will be oh, finally seeing this guy on TV. We know his background. The people that first time saw CM Punk in a WWE ring, they didn't know how hard he had to work to get there. Same with Samoa Joe. There's guys that had so much background. And speaking of one of my favorite death matches that I watched was Necro Butcher and Samoa Joe. Man, what a battle that was! You're taking a guy that was just starting to everyone's talking about this guy, and then you're taking another tough guy that doesn't maybe agree with deathmatch wrestling and stuff, but he's well, if it gets out of hand, I know how to defend myself. And it was made a believer out of me. If they're going to be in the backstage laughing, man, we really put on a show for them, I'd be I thought they really hated each other. And even as a wrestler then, I was holy fuck, how are they still alive? So
well, for anyone that doesn't know that match, the Necro Butcher had gashed himself, like, in Japan on the forehead, and he knew a couple of headbutts would sort of open that back up. But
there's a moment where he gets thrown over the top turnbuckle and hits his head straight on the concrete.
Yeah.
And people are going to be like, oh, man.
Looked like a watermelon that just kind of smashed a little bit and left that big blood.
You could hear it as well, just go...
Yeah, when you feel that, the ground, when guys will jump off something high or hit and you feel it in the, like, you know, like that can't be good. That can't feel good. Well, the things we do with adrenaline, it's crazy. When it does go down, though, you feel everything and after, and that's the thing people don't always realize is the days after death matches where I have my ritual. I put on my black jogging pants, a black long sleeve shirt, and I pretty much look like I'm sleeping like a vampire in a coffin. I try not to move too much because everything hurts, and I don't want the blood to go in my sheets. My girlfriends in the past knew the routines, and some of them I didn't stay with because they didn't understand it. But my wife gets it. She doesn't like it, but she gets it, you know? So, and same thing. My mom was like, to tell my mom, sometimes I tell her afterwards, she doesn't like hearing me bleed and stuff like, oh, you did a match like this? No. You know, so, if anything, I try to tell her afterwards, but...
After everyone knows you've survived through it.
Exactly. And I'm doing more safer, calculated risks, if that's even possible. And then the younger crop of guys are doing the more crazy stuff. But that's how it is, you know? So I'm good for the nostalgic act. They sometimes are like, that guy's still around? That old fuck? I seen him when I was like a teenager. And they're like, he's still doing this? But yeah, like I said, you adapt a little bit, you change, you got to evolve. I always got different facial hairs. I got stupid haircuts. You know, you just got to keep kind of changing and reading your crowd good. And if they're having fun, then I'm having fun.
How much control did you have in the early days of coming up with your own character?
I don't remember anyone really telling me what I should do. At the beginning though, once I started training out of school, they already had two sexy characters. So they had and I just wanted to be in my underwear and pick up chicks. That's what I was like. If I got sexy in my name, oh, the girls are going to be attracted to me. It doesn't work like that, but you find out. So they already had a guy, Mark Mail. They had another guy, Steven the Sweet Boy. So it was like, no, find something different.
Yeah, you've done the promoter thing as well, haven't you? You were like promoting IWS for a little bit.
Yeah, that was at the beginning of while I was taking lessons. At the same time, we started IWS because everywhere else was French speaking in the part of Canada where I live. It's called Quebec, and it's French is the first language. So there was a lot of French federations, but there was no English federation. So we thought, man, we can get the demographic. We can get like a lot of people, and plus we're doing it in bars. Here the legal drinking age is 18. We started kind of like with a cult following where we didn't have a real ring. We were a low ceiling in a bar. It was kind of like the bar fights, except there was just some mats and some makeshift cords that you couldn't even bounce off of. It was more for the look that they used for sumo wrestling. We were able to put on something that people would come back and see until we raised enough money from many shows to actually book a big building and book a ring and everything, and you know, and it built from there. It built from gym mats, picking them up at PCP fucking Manny's school that he was working at, and picking up the mats, taping them together, and to what it's become today, giant productions at some big clubs. Even getting our one of our last biggest shows was we had IWS versus GCW, and yeah, the man. The god of this shit, Nick Gage, made his appearance there, and the crowd did not believe it. That was one of the best kept secrets this past year, was to keep that Nick Gage was going to be there, because again, you never know. The man has a record, so things follow you in life, but he was able to come through and killed it. We killed it in there, and it was just a lot of fun. And he's another guy that's grown so much that he's super appreciative, I think, of everything that he has, of everyone around him now. You know, again, I don't want to take anything away from his persona, but he's a teddy bear. He's one of the sweetest guys that you could know genuinely now, and I think that's with everything that he's had to deal with in life. Even being dead, clinically dead, they took him out on a helicopter and spending time in prison. I think these things, they make you change, and if you don't change, you're gonna just get left behind, kind of thing. And so he's gotten another chance, and I think that's it's awesome for him. He deserves it, and yeah, a great human being.
And Mick Foley knows who he is now.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm sure Mick once in a while might get sent, hey, did you see this crazy clip or something like that? So, you never know who's watching. So that's like we sometimes have, like I said, we have some influence. We can inspire people, and even then, sometimes some WWE guys or AEW guys, they might get inspired by. Now I know they look a lot more at the independents. There's probably guys' jobs is just to look for cool stuff to give to the guys on TV, So, but that's how it is, man. It's like usually they tell you if it hasn't been seen on TV, it hasn't been invented yet. So some wrestlers would take indie performers' moves at one time and be doing it in WWE, and then people are like, "Oh, he invented this," and it's just like, and the poor man doesn't get the credit. It's happened to me before. It might not be the last time neither. So yeah, I just like to get a pat on the back or a pat on the cock to be like, you know what, you thought of that, genius, great. It's entertaining. It's not wrestling, but it's entertaining. So if it's entertaining, for me, that's wrestling.
When IWS and CZW sort of came together, can you talk about how that happened? Like, who was involved?
Yeah.
Who made it happen?
The indies were able to do that all the time, which was fun. But again, the eyes that were watching the indies weren't as much as the mainstream shows. So yeah, that the meetings for that was more PCP Manny. He'd deal with Zandig, and we were just the talent. At the beginning, I helped IWS, helped them rise to fame, but I realized I want to be a wrestler. It's really hard to promote and get better at wrestling if you're working a lot, trying to get sponsors, trying to do stuff, and you're holding a steady job, and you got life to deal with. So it was just too much. I wanted to focus all my energy in wrestling. So I left them on good terms too. I'm still wrestling for them. So, but it was just that I said, this part of the job is not for me. I just want to be a better wrestler. I want to wrestle as much as I can. And now I changed to where I want to wrestle when I feel like it too. But I mean, it's too much fun if I go too many weeks without wrestling, But again, I got to listen to my body also.
So could you talk us through what happened when you got to the Tournament of Death 3? Like, who did you meet for the first time? How was the backstage workings of that show? Yeah,
so we weren't sure if it was the right place. We were changing in a bar, and then they were like, oh, yeah, it's in the back. And we saw the ring set up and stuff. But went in the bar, and I remember they asked if I had any firearms. I'm like, no, sir, not at all. And then they're like, they were more concerned, less with the firearm, but more, hey, you got to make sure that they're 21 if they're going to drink, Like, I'm more worried about guns than alcohol. But, again, that was the first thing. I want to say, I think Necro Butcher was one of the first guys, but he wasn't known then. I didn't know he was a wrestler. I didn't know he was someone that's getting drunk at the bar. I didn't know we're in the afternoon at a dive. And so he was like, no, we're changing in the bar and we're going out there. I'm like, okay. To meet John the first time too was cool because we had seen. Well, I was a fan of Combat Zone Wrestling. I was supposed to go to Tournament of Death too, but I had gotten injured in Canada. Doing a death match, so I couldn't go. And that gave a little time for me to maybe make a little bit more matches and more of a buzz, that by the time it got to Tournament of Death 3, Ruckus was vouching for me, and he was like, hey, you got to see this guy. He sent his tape in. I sent a resume, like an 8x10 picture with all the places I've wrestled and stuff. It was like a job interview. You got to think of it that way. Why are they going to pay you to wrestle? Why are they going to hire you? So you got to prove yourself. Once you get to show off, you do your stuff in the ring. If they got more of an impressive package, if you will, like pictures and the videos and stuff, then that might put things in your favor. So I thought, you know what? Let me go into this as professional as I can, even though you got a guy just standing in his underwear. So, but I'm like looking at this as like, you know, it's like a job interview. And so I had a whole year that they were watching my stuff because they wanted me for Tournament of Death too. And so they got to watch more IWS and be like, oh, okay, man. All right. There's like, okay, there's high flyers. They got some funny guys. It was like, I felt we did great business together, Combat Zone Wrestling and IWS. Good exchange of talent. And yeah, it opened a lot of doors for everyone on both sides.
Who was the nicest guy? Like, who was the nicest CZW guy to you, aside from Ruckus?
And everyone just seemed very humble. And you're only meeting them for the first time, so you don't know when they'll be like, oh, that guy's a fucking dick, or that guy, you know. So you learn that as you keep going to shows, and you're like, who's two-faced, who's genuine, who's honest, and you know. So it's always hard to tell, but I feel that John was very honest with his opinions and everything, and he was like, hey man, we really like you, and to the point where when myself, XS, Kevin Steen and El Generico, when we did our four-way match, that the crowd was chanting so much IWS, IWS, to the point that John had to cut them off with the mic work, and he literally said, you guys are invited anytime you can come down, anytime. And I think he's always been a super upfront, honest guy, and he'd always give chances to everyone. That's one thing. He's like, show us what you got. And, you know, and if Philly don't like you, they're the hardest crowd to win over. But when they like you, then they like you. So, yeah, that was another lesson, too, where people were telling me that. And because of the blood incident that 3 months before that had happened, and this was my first time in Philly in their arena, the roar that I got just from the opening notes of my music, everyone standing up. You know, I'd won them over already before even coming to the curtain. Like from that blood incident in Delaware, we're going to another state, but a lot of the same people had seen it. It went viral already, and yeah, I did not know there was such an impact from that event. If I am part cat, I've wasted my 8 lives already. I got 1 left, so I got to be smart about this, you know. So that's the thing. And then when DJ Hyde came in, he didn't want the Canadians anymore. I think maybe it cost too much money or stuff like that. That stuff happens, but we were going there every month, and it was a blast. Yeah.
Yeah, I stopped watching it at that time because it didn't feel right to me anymore. But you had one of the biggest turnarounds, I think, in that tournament of Deathmatch, because you've come out and you're dancing with Zandig's wife.
Yeah, which he pushed that on me. He was like, no, I want you to do that. You'll get good heat. And I was like, yeah, okay, sir, you know.
There's like 13, 14-year-old boys in the crowd that hate you. Them really hating you. And then
they didn't like, from once I came out, they were just already with their fingers in my face and stuff. And yeah, again, you got to go with it. And that's when the improv kicks in where, hey, there's a switch. They're loving this. We knew they would boo any guys that wrestle their guys because, you know, they're cheering for their guys. But each round had a mix where you'd wrestle another guy and then you'd end up wrestling one of your own to show some stuff that you can do because you worked with your guys the most. Yeah, that's... but again, accidents happen, and that's the difference, like I said, between a hardcore match and a death match, guaranteed blood. But there's more room for error.
And you didn't know what happened, did you, at the time?
Not exactly.
What caused it?
I know the moment where I got the glass in my arm, but I didn't realize it, and I didn't realize how it was gushing continuously. And it was until there was, I think the fans realized it first because it may be the commentators too, and they're like, can see a close up of my arm. But it was that moment where I'm squeezing it and there's like a white background, like the cameraman, Smart Mark Video, again, awesome work, which if it would have been the trees or you couldn't see as much, but they got the white background, the blood squirts, and you hear Mike Burns, you hear the cameraman, and he just does such a funny yelp. Oh, like he just really panics, like, because he did not see this coming at all. And it was just like, yeah, that was the feeling of, I think, everyone that was there. He just let it out vocally while he's holding the camera.
So when you get to the back, what happens? Like, are people?
Yeah, right away there's someone trying to tape me up and cover me and put pressure on it. That's one thing CZW was good with. Again, you're going to have a tournament of death. Have a nurse on hand or two people on hand to fix the guys up. They took care of us as soon as they could, but then they were like, hey, we're going to have to bring him to a hospital. He's going to bleed out. And so, again, the fans took care of me, and man, they still, like, once in a while write me a message, how you doing, champ, and stuff like that, and it's cool. That's when I say Deathmatch fans are the best. They are the best. And they paid their ticket to watch a show, but instead of seeing the finals, they're going to drive me to the hospital, So that just goes to show you how cool and how appreciative Deathmatch fans are.
Do you remember how you created your finishing moves?
So I'd actually seen another guy doing this when I first started, and he was working on a flip. So the split leg, springboard split leg, again, Rob Van Dam, and then it changed from that. I used to so I'd jump on the first rope and do a senton, a front flip, but I'd be moving backwards, so I'd land my back on the guy. I don't even know. Maybe some guys use it now and stuff. But I was doing that, calling it total SeXXXy, until I landed on my head and I couldn't feel my body. I started getting my fingertips started feeling fire, and then I started able to move my hand, and I was just like, man, that could have been it. So that was one thing where I stopped doing that. After that, it's like I always think of that. So I used to stand up on the top rope, drop on my ass, and then do the flip, but I've landed that different ways badly and stuff, and it was just like, I don't know why, just to do something different. But I'm like, you got to think safer. You got to work smarter, not harder. And as you get older, the longer you want to do this, well, you got to adapt your wrestling style. It adapted. I'll still use the split leg moonsault now. That's pretty much my big moves that I'll pull out. But again, people love when they get to see my Dick Flair. That's the Ric Flair bump from the top rope, but I'm holding him by his dick. Like I said, I have a bunch of dick tricks in my underwear, not up my sleeve, but in my underwear.
So who were some of your favorite guys to work with?
I had a good feud with XS in IWS. We had a good storytelling, a good buildup of matches and stuff. Anyone who had a good character, like Wrestling Val Venus, super easy because we're doing dick stuff. We're being in a tag team with them. Same thing. Like, he's telling me, like, hey, is this going to get over? And I'm like, trust me. So he's like, we do some funny dick stuff. And he was like, man, that was fucking hot. That was great. When you get someone that's been there, or Honky Tonk Man telling me, I'd work with you any day of the week. That's like a huge compliment for me because I know I'm taking care of him. Every time that guy like that is wrestling someone that he doesn't know, he doesn't have time to go look them up and do homework on them. He wants to do his standard stuff. But if I can put a little twist with my character and stuff, and that he's like, man, that was great, that was awesome. So that's my most encouraging and my most flattering things is when guys that are that were at the top are able to, like, really appreciate what I did and what my input in the match, and then I know I'm on the right. I'm doing something right.
Well, I thought that you and Beef Wellington were two of the funniest wrestlers that I'd ever seen in my life. Like, is Beef Wellington still wrestling now?
He's actually ring announcing for IWS now. He couldn't keep the business because it's impossible, but he still has fun being backstage and part of it. No, he was one of the guys that when he said, when it's over for me, it's over, so but he still has a part in, and again, who knows, it's never your last match. Like, you never know, they could do something, or a tag team match. I've had guys that'll tell me, hey, if this guy's still wrestling, I'd like him to come out of retirement for one match. I'm like, look, here's his contact info. If you can convince him, man, he might do one more match. But he was one of the guys, too, that sold the most amount of T-shirts that I had ever seen. And again, a silly move, the ass punch, but who knew it would get so over? Who knew? You know, it was silly, but people needed to laugh. They need to laugh. Not only seeing blood or things like that, they need to be entertained. So again, super nice guy, super entertaining. You could talk punk rock music with him like for hours. So yeah, really cool dude. And I the other day I was like talking about the Misfits because they always play Halloween here, and it's funny to see them in WCW too. How that lasted, but yeah, it's he was one of the best fun guys and one of the best drivers too. Except we'd usually get every second show, we'd probably get a speeding ticket. We were speeding so fast until the cop cars saw us, the lights were on. We're like, holy shit, we didn't realize. Just we were so pumped with the music that just yelling, oh yeah, dig it, and just yelling that, like I said, it's like a daycare. We need to have our girlfriends and wives kind of keep us in check, because once we're all together backstage, we're just running around like idiots and fart, pee, caca, ha 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 ha. That's what a wrestling locker room is. It's not as fancy and cool as other people would think, but you know, that's it is what it is. Maybe this is just the independent wrestling lockers. We know we don't have and our job's not on the line, right? So
Do you know who Beef Wellington looks like? It's Jimmy Pop from the Bloodhound Gang. Do you remember that band?
Oh yeah, dude, I love the Bloodhound Gang. I got to meet Jimmy Pop when I first, it was their first album. Here, I used to buy a lot of cassettes before CDs too, and so sometimes I wouldn't know anything. You couldn't stream music, you couldn't really listen to music, and so I saw their cassette, the first one, and it was there's a chick eating a chicken wing on there, and she's like wearing panties, and I think she had like a Superman shirt or something. But I was like, I love chicks, I love chicken wings. This is going to be an awesome band, and that's when I discovered them, and how funny they were, the tongue in cheek, and all the references that they would do. And Jimmy Pop would rap so fast. I thought he was a genius. So,
fun fact about the Bloodhound Gang: the bass player Evil Jared is a wrestler now.
Yeah, I went to go see a show, and then I took a picture with him after the show, and I said, he's like, oh, I think he said, what do you want to do? And I said, I don't know, do something funny. And he just grabbed my dick. So right away, even then, this is way before wrestling, people were already magnetically drawn to my penis. So, you know, there's something there. There's something there. Actually, we just went to see Rancid 2 weeks ago. And PCP fucking Manny was there, and Beef Wellington was there. So he still loves his music, loves the live shows. And it's nice when you've shared the ring, when you've shared a death match with someone, there's a special bond that I think you can always talk to a guy and be real.
Getting back to Beef Wellington,
yes,
and Lufisto, because do you remember you had that freeway light tube match with them, and Lufisto got glass stuck in her back.
Her back, yeah.
And there's that moment where the cameraman kind of panics and tries to pull it out of her.
That was another interesting match too, where it was just like, all right, already three-ways are a little tougher, three-way death match, but it was two people that I'm really comfortable with and stuff, so it was again a good time. It was memorable. I remember it was a Halloween themed part. I think the show was called Fear, even. I think the DVD for that one. You know, you look at your body and it's like a roadmap of scars and stuff, and you're like, oh, I remember this one, and stuff. So yeah, even though my memory sucks now, I can't remember what I had for breakfast 3 days ago, but you know, you look at a scar and you're like, vividly, I remember happening, this the blood coming out and all this stuff, and it's just like, yeah, it's our bodies are living artwork, if you will, or some kind of disgusting deformed kind of art.
So in the late 80s and the early 90s, that company FMW were putting on like female death matches, barbed wire matches, Megumi Kuda, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and they were hitting harder than the guys sometimes.
Yeah. Do you know if there were any other companies back then that were doing that before? Or
man, I'm sure in Mexico, like I don't know how early when women were wrestling in Mexico, but like the way that they hit in Japan was just that's the first place that I saw it. and I was just like blown away. They're bleeding, and they're like, Bull Nakano. I remember when I seen her in the WWE. She was from Japan, and she had this big long hair, like a big like she put I don't know how many cans of hairspray, but she was wrestling Alundra Blaze a lot. But she brought something different that I was like, whoa, there's girls from around the world that not just their character or whatever, she's really from Japan. And then seeing her old stuff, and then they're like, who was the other one? There was some tough chicks in Japan that I was like, yeah, I don't want to get hit by them. And then so to see other girls keep going, like Lufisto's, Mickey Knuckles, to seeing them, break down walls and fighting men just as equals. And you're seeing it more and more, like with Sawyer Wreck, Rita Yamashita, and it's just Masa Slamovich. Like you're seeing it more and more, and it's really cool. Like, I didn't think that women would want to do this craziness, but they're just as crazy, if not crazier sometimes, than some of the guys.
Well, moving on to Nick Gage then, because this is a guy who seems like he never ever drops his character. Like even in shoot interviews, he's still like, yeah, he's a good guy, I'm gonna fucking kill him when I see him though. I mean, this is a guy who will straight up kick you in the face. And that's like one of his signature moves, like he calls it the face wash. He just runs at you and kicks you in the face. Like, how do you take that safely?
Some things you're going to feel it, so you just try and go with it as much as you can. But like, and Nick Gage, I think it was the second time that I wrestled him. I think he had just came out of jail, and he had. We talked about stuff beforehand, but then once we were in the ring face to face, it was a whole other person. And it was just like, for a moment, I'm like, how is this going to go? Are we just throwing everything out the window? Is this a fight? So it was something. He was able to really, boom, become Nick fucking Gage once the bell rang and stuff. And then wrestling him in March, when we did a Team IWS versus Team GCW, again, even smoother, but like, again, the character, you get once he comes out of the curtain, he's amped up. He's at number 11. When you can't turn the speaker up to past 10, but he passes it, So, but like I said, I think he learned a lot in life, and he's happy to have another chance. So I hope he runs with it as far as you can go. He was one of the first to put glass on American television, wrestling Chris Jericho. So that was something that, like, who would have ever thought is going to happen?
I've not heard of this.
Nick Gage got to wrestle Chris Jericho at AEW, and it was the first time, I believe, that they had a panes of glass and a light tube. And Jericho bled. So it was something, he brought that, again, even if it was only one shot, that was the mainstream's taste to what wrestling could be. So, and now I feel that they've amped up their product, and they incorporate more matches that'll have like a big blow-off match with blood and stuff, or something crazy from it. So, Nick helped. Nick helped that put just like Necro Butcher with the movie The Wrestler. These guys helped put deathmatch wrestling a little bit on the map, if you want, where other eyes were able to see it, and that would have probably never saw it. And maybe they didn't like it, but you know what? Again, this is wrestling. Everything you could think of and more. That's what wrestling is. It's not only, like I say, two guys with black trunks doing moves to each other. There's so much more, and yeah.
You know what I've always wanted to know? This just like popped in my head while I've got you here. How is it that there's always like some 4-year-old kids like in the front row of death matches while there's glass flying everywhere? It's like, are there no rules in this environment? Like, shouldn't they kind of be moved to the back? Or
I'm against that also. I always like it was weird. The first time in the States, it was kind of like I remember even seeing like an 8-year-old kid, and he had blood on his shirt. He was just so happy that he had, and I'm just like, if I had kids, what age would I bring them to wrestling shows? What age would I bring them to deathmatch wrestling shows? Maybe that's the reason that I don't have kids. So who am I to judge, though? Like there's so much available now on the internet with the violence and stuff. I'm like, you know what? You're the parent. You have to deal with them. I'm here to put on a show. If you're bringing kids, well, they're gonna get more than an eyeful, and their moms might get more than a mouthful. Sorry, I have to throw in some sex jokes once in a while there. That I still am SeXXXy Eddy, so I gotta stay true to myself.
So you're married these days, like, is your wife cool with everything that you're doing to yourself?
You know what? Like, again, there's things that she'd change a little bit, but she understands it. She doesn't like it. She doesn't like some of the deathmatch stuff, but she gets it, and she knows that, again, it's like I said, it was a lot of trust and a lot of confidence in what you can do and what your opponent's going to do and stuff like that. But she's nursed me back to health. She's helped me. So, but again, like I say, when the older you get, you got to realize how many more matches do you still have left in the tank.
What about with you dancing with the women?
Oh, she loves that. That's a great, that's fun. Again, I do that a lot less. And I want to say wrestling tends to have not the prettiest fans. I mean, if I would have went for the groupies, I would have been a hockey player, or I would have learned how to play guitar. Because, I mean, we're lucky when the girls in the crowd have all their teeth, or we're lucky if they can take them all out. Then that's a good thing too.
That reminds me of I think IWA had like this trailer trash looking family. This mom holding like a newborn baby. She's like, slit his fucking throat, slit his throat.
Can I get your autograph? Here, let me put my cigarette down, and they put it in their kids' mouths. Well, I'm signing. You know what I mean? Yeah, but that's when you appreciate. I appreciate how beautiful our women are in our country when you go to visit other countries or you go to different places. So, there's beauty in every woman, though. But, I mean, and it's fun to taste all the flavors around the world. But when I come home, at least in the summertime, Montreal is a mecca for sex. It's just hot women. I love hot women. Let me state this. I'm gonna be the first to say this. I love hot women. This is a breakthrough. No, man. Sex is great. Sex is great. It's just fun to say and just good to do. It keeps you young.
So do some of the women in the audience, do they know what's going to happen when you bring them out? Did you sort of talk it through with them?
I tend to try and pick women that would have wrestling shirts on because maybe they've come to shows before. Because it's happened where the girl will be like, no, I don't know what's going on, or they think that they're going to get hit or something. They don't know. You got to take regulars that have come to the show. And when there's girls that regularly come to wrestling shows, they're usually not, unless it's a plant, then, the girl is spectacular. The girl is hot. The girl's from a strip club or something, or they hired some porn girl to do something. Then that's cool too. But, she's not just in the crowd.
Yeah, well, I mean, you won me over with the Tournament of Death 3 before you even started wrestling. It's like you were trying to get Zandig's wife in the ring. You were like, I cleared it up with Zandig. It's fine, so you could come in. It's like, this is the...
I was nervous. Because then the fans, I didn't know how much that the fans knew her. Like if she plays a big part in CZW, or they just know. And for him to be like, dude, I love your act. I want you to do the whole thing. I want to do that with my wife and stuff. And it's fun times. I have to watch it again.
Oh man, it's so good.
So I think we'll wrap it up here and maybe get one last story, like what hilarious things have happened recently.
Well, I guess waking up on Green Phantom's couch, doing a line of coke and drinking a beer, and then going to work was something. And that just
skateboarder.
Pardon me?
Was the Green Phantom a skateboarder? Because I've seen him with the light tube skateboards, and he jumps off the top turnbuckle with it like a...
That's one of his signature spots he likes to do. I don't know if he was a boarder, but I know he loves to bike. He bikes a lot. He bikes everywhere. There's one crazy story if I can go all out. So I was at IWA Mid South. You might have heard this one before. So we had some girls that wanted to come party with some wrestlers after the show, and me and Viking were a tag team at IWA Mid South at the time. We were just called Beer and Tits. We're like, hey, you love beer, I love tits. I love beer, you love tits. We love them both. So that's a silly ass name, but it works for us. So we had there was a girl that's naked on the bed, and I said a real tag team. We'll do a real tag team move. So we put our hands together, we opened up our fingers like this, and we proceeded to put both our 4 fingers in her vagina, and we were tagging while we were in her vagina. And I said, man, this is the tag team life. And that was it's still one of the craziest stories that I'm looking at them and like, only in wrestling is this possible, that we're doing something so stupid. And this girl tells her boyfriend at the time that she's at the library to study. I was like, what is this world coming to? That's when I knew that the end of the world is coming near, is coming soon. So when we're backstage, our IQ level just drops drastically. And we're just over silly. So again, that's as crazy I think as I can get. But other than that, yeah, sometimes you're waking up after a party, can't find your clothes and stuff, and I'm like, man, I knew I should have taken the red pill and not the blue pill and both of them together. It's like a scene from The Matrix or something. I just took a handful of pills. I don't want to condone the use of drugs, but once in a while, everything in moderation is okay. Just don't do like Uncle SeXXXy Eddy and go crazy like I tend to do. And I probably will still do again. As long as I breathe, I know I'll be doing silly, stupid shenanigans. Yeah. But what can you do?
Yeah, well, a big thank you to you for coming to do this interview with me. And I'd love to have you back on at some point if we can make that happen.
Yeah, sure.
I just reached out to Lufisto as well, so I'm waiting to hear back from her. If you could help me out with that.
Yeah, I'll hook you up.
Yeah, that would be amazing. So again, big thanks to SeXXXy Eddy, professional deathmatch wrestler, for doing this. Just keep doing what you're doing because I think it's amazing.
Thank you very much. Take it easy, man.
Thank you.
All right, ciao.
Eddy, Eddy, Eddy.